We are the one, the light in the dark. One heart, one world, one spark. We are the one, together we rise. One dream, one voice, one sky. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Empowered Across the World. And this is our podcast. And I have amazing podcast hosts with me today. I have Jackie Zaccoli from Arizona, but she is global with her Gen Network, Global Impact Network. And I have Megan from South Africa. And she is somebody that loves working with young people. And she has, is it Academy Space? Is that what you call it? Yeah, Academy Space. And I'm Carol Witt, and I am global. I am in 73 countries, 43 are in Africa, and I teach mindset. It's the biggest deal. And we have a great guest today for you. We always have amazing guests. And our guest today is Lisa Kirkwood, and she's going to share her story with us. So, Lisa, come join us.
Thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks again to Jackie for the referral. It's not the first time that Jackie and I are sharing stages because we started years ago with Win-Win Women. Recently, we had a panel moderated by the United Nations on women's empowerment, and Jackie was instrumental in bringing me on board. And now here's another opportunity, and she's an amazing human being and a powerhouse connector. So yay for Jackie. So as far as my life journey is one of those things because I'm a first generation immigrant in the land of all possibilities in the US. This year I'm coming up on 21 years of US residency and citizenship. And lately I've been focusing a lot on cross-cultural communication and cultural diversity. To be specific, I started pivoting towards this domain during COVID because a lot of people had to rethink their business models. And that's when I realized that there's an opportunity for improvement because up until now, up until then, I was working in the corporate space, and I noticed that if they offer any diversity training at all, those tend to limit themselves to what they call primary dimensions, which is gender, race, age, and disability. And beyond that, there was nothing else, no other subtle cultural nuances that are just as important, if not more important, than the primary dimensions. So with that in mind, I realized that there's a gap that could be filled with a more comprehensive training program. And that's when I started working on higher dimensions of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I had that, it's been in a long inception time because I started during COVID to refine my message, to see who I want to connect with. And the course itself, I started promoting it and monetizing it last year in 2024. But meanwhile, I was busy building content for it because it's a very, very wide spectrum of basically human experiences. Because if you are to define diversity, I would say is the full spectrum of human experiences. And there are as many nuances to diversity as there are human beings. And last I checked, there are about 8 billion of us out there. So you do the math and figure it out. You know, it's a complex notion, but it's not something to be scared of, because lately we have this climate of fear and shame and guilt centered around diversity, and that's most unfortunate. So going back to the primary dimensions, I'm a speaker, author, and consultant, and I love to focus on cross-cultural communication and cultural diversity, as well as team building and empowerment and leadership. Now, the primary dimensions of diversity, as I said, gender, race, age, and disability. I have a note to put with that because they are considered primary because they are assigned at birth and do not change. But think about it. So we have gender, race, age, and disability. Aside from age, that goes, for everybody biologically, and ethnicity, skin color, and race. The other two, gender and ability/disability, these are actually changeable because we have um, transgender people, and we also have people who are born either with or without a disability. So, for example, some people born with mild forms of autism are able to come out of that and heal them, so they're no longer disabled by that. Or people who say they are born and raised in perfect physical condition, but you have to take a young man, ends up on the battlefield, gets injured, loses body parts, and then he is disabled. So if you talk about the primary dimensions, again, two of the four that are considered primary, these are also transient. So beyond that, there is also the rest of the dimensions of diversity. And I also focus on language. I have a multicultural and multilingual background. I speak several foreign languages. So I have language that I speak on with international expertise, culture, and also religion. So when it comes to religion, this is a very delicate topic, but because I have the international background behind me, I am comfortable to approach it from a global perspective. And with that in mind, I have found very eager audiences when I told them simply that this is not to challenge anybody's beliefs or to defend anybody else's. This is to look at religion as a philosophical concept, if you would, from a historical, global, and international perspective. So, with that in mind, people are willing to listen. So, this is my way to bridge cultures through diversity of religion and of language. Overcoming language barriers. This is one big thing that I can teach people how to deal with. Another element of this program and my message overall is how to leverage and monetize a highly diversified workforce. What can HR professionals do to recruit, train, retain, and promote diverse talent? Because based on different statistics, diverse teams outperform by far those that are monochrome. And I'm a huge believer in diversity. Now, unfortunately, lately, diversity has taken a backseat and has taken a big hit to the point where a lot of people who had diversity in their job title, they were suddenly unemployed. It had become, especially the DEI, if you put diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, the word itself, became some sort of a scapegoat for whatever frustrations that the privileged majority may have. To be completely fair, the fact that we got to this situation in the first place has a very subjective side to it. Think about the minoritized groups that were silent and silenced for decades on end. Mm. All of a sudden, they took center stage, whether you talk about racial minorities or gender minorities or any other minorities. So they finally had their spotlight, and their voices became so uncomfortably loud for the privileged white majority that when these latter had the chance to do away with diversity, they gladly did so because they just couldn't stand it. So why did it come to that? Is because pushing somebody's norms onto somebody else is just not cool. And the fact that others are compelled to accept a situation, that doesn't mean they're going to embrace it. And let me give you an example. Mm-hmm. Once I was interviewing a transgender lady. She had a very, very interesting story. And she has been telling her basically her life story, how she became transgender, what led to that. And she's also an advocate of bridging the communication gap between the LGBTQ people and the straight majority. So the her main message is this, addressing the way she addressed to the LGBTQ people. She said, folks, you can tell your story to the straight majority, and they can accept you. They know who you are. They know what you do. They can accept you, but don't expect them to embrace you. if you keep pushing it, like this is normal and this is a way of life for everybody, you're just going to alienate them. And for this reason, coming from a transgender lady, it's kind of a shakeup. And she became sort of a persona non grata with the LGBTQ community, but she became a darling with the straight communities. She said, who say to her, finally, someone who actually says this how it is.
Mm.
Conversely, if you had diversity trainers that happen to be people of color, they may tend to focus exclusively, specifically on race-related issues. And for people who are not of color, who have to keep hearing that day in, day out, again, they start pushing back. They say enough of this already. Again, coming back to our lady earlier, they can accept it, but they're not going to embrace it. So this issue of relatability between the two spectrums, the majority and the minority, the privileged and the underprivileged, this is something that I'm focusing on. It's a message of harmony, hope, and unity to diversity.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to hard dollars, I was talking to an investor, like a big money guy, who said it in these terms. He says, people don't care about diversity, harmony, and unity, especially in the business spectrum, unless you tell them two things: how much money they can make with diversity, or how much money they can save with diversity. So unless you have that covered, then they may not want to do anything with diversity at all.
Yeah.
So that gave me some food for thought. I sat down, I generated a report on what happens with and without diversity. So it turns out that US businesses face lawsuits of 500 million to $1 billion annually arising from diversity issues, whether it's gender discrimination, racial discrimination, or any sort of work-related issues that involve minorities. So I'm like, this is where diversity is necessary, and shoving it aside and under the rug is not going to help, because if anything, these businesses are going to face the same issues, but now with the vengeance, because now they don't even dare to train their employees. I was recently speaking at the conference of municipal clerks. It was their annual conference, and one of the students in my class, she actually said it. So nowadays, even if we want to request funding, like state or federal funding, we cannot put the word diversity in our request because we'll get denied. And I told her, in this case, what you need to do, just reframe it and take diversity from a different perspective, and just frame it in terms of leadership and empowerment. You will get the funding for that. So it's a very thorny situation right now. And some people say this too shall pass because things are cyclic. And who knows, maybe in the new form of diversity, it's going to be something more appealing to everybody, this side and the other, because we're going to maybe finally find a bridge of communication that is not too loud, not uncomfortable for the majority, but at the same time is not too faint and too ineffective for the underrepresented groups. So this is what my message focuses on: how to bring people back together to the table and have them communicate openly, honestly, and efficiently, regardless of their background, religion, gender, race, color, whatever. So this is what I do.
Wow. Wow. Well, I love that you found their pain points. I love that you did the research. You found the place where they could actually listen to you about diversity. Wow, thank you for going the extra mile, because some people would look at that and go, yeah, I'm probably not going to get through to them, and give up. You did not. You
No, I did not. I did
really,
not, because I'm not a giver upper, first of all. And
no.
second, I'm not also one trick pony, because the fact that I approach diversity from a global perspective together with leadership and empowerment, I'm like, okay, they can actually replace each other. So
Wow.
if you approach diversity from a leadership and empowerment perspective, then you got a brave new world. opening up. So this is the direction that I'm going. Because going back to Mr. Investor that I was talking to, that only cares about hard dollars, he put this into a very uninspired phrasing. He said, you can title your report the new approach to the market something like diversity is dead, but we can still profit from it. And I did not like that wording a bit. I'm like, this is just not cool. So I took the facts, I took the data, and I took the human factor and the storytelling and how people can connect to each other. And this is what this is the message that I'm now promoting in this new format, this new angle. Because again, we gotta talk to each other, we gotta communicate. Just the other day, I was on a radio show, and the gentleman, the host, said that he personally had a case at his workspace. They had the Jewish gentleman and the Palestinian gentleman, and you know how the Jews and Palestinians are now in, in open conflict and rivalry. And those two folks, they took it personally to the workspace. And the radio host asked me point blank, "Would you be able to fix that situation?" And I go very bravely and boldly, yes. If it's only at the workplace with those two people who work together and they need to produce the results that the company wants them to, yes, we can fix it. Now, if you talk about the Arab and Israeli peace altogether, that's a whole different story. That's a very bold endeavor to even think about it. But hey, we have something to start with. But yeah, these are things as subtle and as complex as that can be addressed from an HR standpoint. And I see Jackie, she has her hand up. Did you have a question, Jackie?
Go ahead, Jackie.
Yeah, well, you amaze me every time you speak. So, it's like, wow, what a challenge. Good night, the barriers are huge, huge, especially now of all times. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, Trump taking people out of the military. I mean, it's going backwards at least 50 to 100 years.
Yeah.
How are you really going to get these people to literally, I know the global reach makes sense, and it probably is something that will make more of a vanilla, more of an acceptable type of thing that people can look at. So I'm just fascinated with how you're really going to do that in the environment, in the even if it's just the corporate environment, which is probably going to need it as much as anything. So, what types of things? My question is, how do you literally approach it? Let's say you have a room filled with probably four nationalities. I mean, you've got a whole room full of mixed people. I'm just curious how you approach that.
Like you said, and like I mentioned before, from an international perspective, with respect and understanding of everybody's culture. And I wanted to come back to what you were saying earlier, Jackie. So the fact that the diversity has taken such a beating in the US, please note that this is primarily in the US, primarily under the new administration. Because I'm talking to Canadian people, and they have no issue with diversity whatsoever. Nothing has changed in their policies. And they still
Good to
recruit,
know.
train, promote, and everything. I also spoke with an Australian lady. Same thing. She's like, we pride in diversity. We have, look at all the melting pot that is in here. New Zealand is the same. Now Europe is the same. Heck, even Eastern Europe, my home country, Romania, that was, we were isolated during communist time. So communists fell in Romania in 1989. So even now, they with the alignment with the European Union policies and stuff, even now they are still developing, but they are nonetheless acknowledging the fact that diversity is at the core of the workforce and society. So with that said, all is not lost, and not all is lost, just because we are going through this rough spot in this place, in this administration, that doesn't mean everybody shun diversity as if it doesn't exist, because this is naive to think that it doesn't exist. Like I said, there are as many nuances to diversity as there are human beings. So how do I say, if we let the dust settle somehow, again, things are cyclic and it's going to come back maybe in another form, but it's not that all of a sudden we cease to be diverse. We can be as diverse as, hey, I like veggies, but you're a meat eater, or vice versa, something like that. So if you don't acknowledge that, you're just going to have conflict after conflict after conflict.
Yeah.
So coming back to what Jackie was saying, if you are in a room with different nationalities, you know what I found most challenging, Jackie? Getting into that room, actually getting those people together so I can deliver the message. That was my challenge so far, since I've been trying to get this message to a lot of people. So I appreciate any sort of relevant connections with corporate space and HR professionals and event planners and stuff like that. Let me talk and I'll explain and I'll tell them this is how things are from multiple perspectives. I was looking at the title of a TEDx speech, and it's called "The Dangers of a Single Story" or something like that. So don't think that you take just a unilateral approach and this makes it or breaks it. This is right, this is wrong, this is bad, this is good. It's very complex. Think of the facets of a diamond. How many facets do you have in a diamond? And that's probably a good metaphor for diversity. Anything you wanted to add, Jackie?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
you brought up another thought. I did a telethon for the veterans last Saturday, and we spend it's the same concept. It's a sector of the population, and I had listened to a video previous and it made me realize most emphatically, when we concentrate our individual abilities, the story changes. And that's the whole concept. And I said, what we have in the case of the veterans and in many other, it's just as easily said, when you realize the resources, the strengths, the beautiful expertise that these individuals have, then we begin to realize that they really need to be part of our environment because they are bringing the resources and the abilities to do things we had no clue ever existed. So it's spotlighting their abilities and their literal traits that make them beautiful and wonderful, ignoring everything else.
Oh yeah, definitely. Megan, I see your hand up for a while.
Yeah, Megan, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks very much, Lisa. Thank you for that very telling piece that you gave us there about your story, because as Jackie says and Carol says, this goes really deep. And I mean, me coming from South Africa with our diverse history and your population, I'm so glad that early on in your story you mentioned the human factor, because I think ultimately that's where it starts, recognizing one another as humans. And I remember in primary school being taught the golden rule, and I'm not sure if this is something that you guys learn over in the States, but it's treat another as you would like to be treated yourself. And that's what we were taught at school, right? And so the human factor is really crucial. And the other second thing that I really love is the fact that you say you speak several languages and that communication is such a huge part of this. And for me, who is an ambassador for literacy and wanting to bring that to youth and young minds for the very reason that they need to be able to express themselves clearly and be able to communicate their feelings and their thoughts in a way that other people can actually really understand what they are expressing and not being left to their own perception, right? Because that's how the misunderstandings come about. So really being able to communicate and express yourself, but then also being able to listen and comprehend where the person is coming from and then move from there. So not so much a question, but thank you very much for highlighting those points, because I think they really, really are key. And well done for doing what you're doing.
So Lisa, I have a question for you. And my question is always around our generation coming up. What would you like to share with that younger generation that's stepping into their lives and their journey now out of high school and into college or graduating from college, what would you like to share with them inside of embracing diversity?
Yeah, very good question. Not too long ago, I did an entire masterclass on ages and generations at the workplace. So one thing to keep in mind is the fact that the baby boomers are retiring from the workforce and they are being replaced with younger generations. And especially the generations Z and generation Alpha, the youngest one, they do not respond to the same standards and norms that prior generations did. So instead of what they can bring now to the workplace, the shift has been such as what can the workplace offer to these people to hire them and actually retain them. Because Generation Z is the one that was hardly hit by COVID. And studies came out saying that they have underdeveloped social skills. So on that alone, it's difficult to integrate them with the other generations in an office space or in a traditional work. They would rather work from home or find some sort of flexible options. So workforce and workspace and employers have to adapt to this tendency because you cannot retain them and you cannot work with them in the same norms as you would with baby boomers and even with Generation X and Y. Yes, Generation X, these are more self-sufficient. This is the generation that rose up during the high divorce rate in the 80s, when women were still bound to the traditional family structure and had a kid by inertia or by social pressure, but they still didn't want the burden of the marriage that was not working for them. And the kids bore the brunt of this transition and they had to become self-sufficient. Then is Generation Y, who are very entrepreneurial and very initiative-based. Think about Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. What happened? It started in a college dorm room. So all these things considered, each generation has a different set of values. While we still have the same basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, education, and love, care, appreciation, the way we express those and the way we live life is different from one generation to another. So this whole generational thing, it's a different training in itself. I have one module on this in my program on this topic as well, ages and generation. So whether at the workplace or in society or in school, these are separate rules that apply to each generation, and nonetheless with the unifying message that you have to make them all work together efficiently and without friction and conflict, ideally. So I can help that as well. I hope that answers the question.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So one more question for you, and that is, do you offer like workshops? Do you offer master classes? What kind of things do you offer for people to get educated around this, to get really understanding around this? Because it is a topic that people tend to go away from and not want to hear and aren't motivated towards. So do you offer things for people to come and be educated?
Yes, ma'am. So again, overcoming the diversity word itself, some people try to replace it with variety. It just doesn't quite cut it. Can you say cultural variety with a straight face and mean the same thing? Not really. So with that said, I had to rebrand and reframe the message again as cross-cultural communication. And I found an eager audience for this because they still need to do communication, and cultural issues are prevalent, whether or not you want to choose to consider diversity or call it by its diversity name. So with that said, I offer a wide range of services ranging from consulting one-on-one, discovery calls, see what's happening within a group or organization, all the way to long-term support, training the teams, as well as one-time workshops or master classes, panels, or any other forms of guidance, support, and additional resources that I can provide. And my audience is businesses as well as nonprofit organizations and educational institutions, because these are primarily organizations that employ a large number of people, and when you have a large number of people, there's a higher chance of more diversity than in a small monochrome team. So yeah, this is my target audience.
Beautiful. So we'll have you put your information in the chat so that I can copy and paste it and put it into the the show notes when I upload this into YouTube, so people can reach out to you and find out more. Okay. Okay, well, guys, this was another amazing episode of Women Empowered Across the World. This is what this platform's all about, is getting our voice out, getting what we stand for out there in the world, letting people know who we are and how we're making an impact and a difference in the world. And what you do, Lisa, is making a big impact. So I want to share it with everyone. So if you love these episodes, guys, please, please subscribe to the channel. So absolutely support us by sharing this out to everybody. Share it out to everybody you know. And please join us again. We do these on Mondays and Fridays, and then we upload them into YouTube. And this is episode 76. So thank you, Lisa, for being our guest today. Absolutely amazing story and amazing what you do. So thank you, because not everybody can do that. Not everybody can do that. So thank you for for the direction and the passion you have. Thank you. All right, guys. Wow. One more thing that I want to share, and that is this: we all deserve to thrive. Let's do it together. As women, let's do this together. Bye, everyone. This one.